Next question. This was related to a video I did quite a while ago on how to add a wireless mic, specifically the Sennheiser mic pack, to an iPhone. The problem, to a modern iPhone, the problem of course being that they ain't got no headphone jack on here. So in that video, I go through all the connectors and adapters that you need. It's kind of ridiculous, but you need them. But the question here is there a way to connect the Sennheiser with the laptop and use it with your webcam? And I would say, well, yes, there certainly is. However, you do still need an additional piece of hardware. The problem is that at some point years ago, I don't remember when, but it's been a long time, Apple stopped including a microphone port on the laptops. I don't know why. I think they used to be a combo port, a microphone slash headphone. I don't know. If you plug in a, what do you call it? The Apple headphone jack, Apple headphone thing, then that jack becomes a microphone port, right, on that. But otherwise, it's basically the same type of port that is on here. So there's two ways that you should be able to do this. One I know will work, and one is a theory. And I'm sorry I haven't tested this, but this is what I would try. So either you can buy an adapter that will take you from the, where did I put that cable? Is it here? The Sennheiser mic, great, I'm going to have it in there. Anyway, the Sennheiser mic cable output is just a standard 1/8" jack that you plug into your camera, plug into anything, and off you go. If you look at it, it is going to be a TRS, most likely adapter. The microphone part of that band is not going to line up with the microphone part of the band inside of the computer, the same as it wouldn't on your phone if you have an iPhone 6S or earlier where it's still got a microphone port. If you plugged it in, it still wouldn't work. You need to have an adapter that adapts it to TRRS. And the company that makes it that I live and die by their gear is Rode. And so let me just do this. Let me go to the B&H website real quick again. And I'll show you the adapter that you want. I don't recall the model number, but we're going to find out very soon here. Rode TRRS. It's actually TRS. Well, that's right there. Nope, that's the wrong way. TRRS. Let's do this. SC4, this is the one. This is the one you want, the Rode SC4. Again, we'll link to this down below, $15 adapter. The black end is just a regular 3.5mm or 1/8" jack, and then the gray end, the one that goes into your phone, is what it's designed for. But I think this would still work with your computer, is a TRRS. TRRS, that's tip, ring, sleeve. So that adapter should do it. If that adapter doesn't do it, or just jump straight to this because it's cheaper, I had it. Where'd it go? There it is to use one of these. This is part of the setup that I use for that same configuration that I did the video on. This is a USB adapter with a microphone and a headphone port on it. These are about $10. They're super cheap. And this, let me get a close-up here. I really need to reposition my close-up camera. There we go. This one is called Aki. I think I bought two of these on Amazon, two different brands, just in case one didn't work because they're super cheap. You see it's got you can just see the symbol on there, microphone and a headphone jack. So you plug this USB, obviously, into your computer, and then you've got a dedicated microphone and headphone jack on there. And that's all there is to it. And then your Sennheiser or any microphone you plug into it should work perfectly fine. This is all, I mean, I won't call it theoretical. That's what it's designed for. I didn't actually test it for this video, but it has to work. That's what it's for. That's what it's supposed to do. Okay, I know I'm doing all the questions here and I haven't hit the comments in a while. I will come to the comments after I do the last question here. How many more do I have? Okay, two more. Okay. Oops. Play that back. Okay. So this question is related to a video about editing 4K 60p on the iPad using LumaFusion. I'm gonna get the right name. What's going on my computer? My laptop. Stop. Oh, good crying out loud! My iPad is being finicky. Stop it. Luma. I want to get, yes, LumaFusion. That's the app. So if we look back at the iPad, oh, it's not plugged in. Anyway, the LumaFusion app. That's the video editor on the iPad that I was using when I did that video. So the question here is, I'm wondering what format of your video is. So there was 4K or UHD, Ultra HD 60p, coming off the GH5. Dewey says, I have a Sony A7 which records AVC HD 1080p 60i, 1080i 60. which I would imagine, I haven't tested it because I certainly haven't shot in 1080i 60, I would imagine that LumaFusion would handle that just as well. Although, why you'd shoot an interlace right now, I don't know. There's no good reason to shoot interlace unless you're doing broadcast television where they specifically want interlace. Interlace is pretty much gone. Digital broadcast is all progressive. That's P. The I versus P. I is interlace. P is progressive. Interlace, you've seen this before. You look at an old YouTube video that someone transferred from a television show and you see all the lines. Like all your edges are jaggy edges. They all have these lines like this. Instead of being smooth, it's like this. That's interlacing. It's a hideous thing, but it's easy to de-interlace. Every video editor in the world, well, pro video editor, has a de-interlace option, and it just does a shifting of the fields to make them line up. So if somebody puts a YouTube video up that's got interlacing, man, that's some sloppy work. Anyway, I don't know why you'd shoot 1080i these days. I really don't. Maybe someone can tell me why you still need to, but I have no idea. So first point is, with the A7, please shoot it in 1080p 60, and that's going to be a better thing. I'm assuming the A7 shoots 1080p 60. I have no idea. Anyway, then the rest of the question says, may the Lightning to SD cable transfer AVC HD files to the iPad Pro? So that could be the bigger part of the problem, is that it's AVC HD. AVC HD is a more compressed, smaller file format, but it requires a lot more processing power to edit. So odds are that LumaFusion can't handle AVC HD. That would be my guess. So on that camera, Sony A7, that's a high-end camera, right? Switch it over to MP4 or MOV mode, which I'm sure it has, I'm hoping. I mean, Sony's, it's a good camera, it's got to have that, right? So that should solve the problem. And then you would be able to transfer your files over. At the last part of the question, Dewey is asking, where does the iPad store the video? So when you're ingesting footage from your camera using the Lightning to SD card reader, whether it's stills or video, whatever, they're just going into the camera roll. But here's the thing you have to be aware of. If you have iCloud library, iCloud photo library, whatever it's called, turned on, which most of you probably do because this is how you synchronize between your iPad and your phone and your computer, and it's all this one big happy ecosystem family. It's super cool. The video files that you load on there will eventually get pushed up to the cloud. And once they're on the cloud, they will be removed from your device locally, especially if they're really big files and especially if you haven't used them in a while. So this is all fine and good because when you want to see the file, you tap it, it downloads it, and you're ready to go. What you have to be aware of, though, and unfortunately there is no good solution to this, but what you have to be aware of is if you decide that you're going to edit on, I don't know, let's say on the plane on the way home from your trip to Sweden for a week where you shot a bunch of video, copied it all onto here, and you're excited to edit your movie on the plane on the way home, the files are no longer there, and you can't edit, and you're done. End of discussion. Until you're back on a high-speed connection, you cannot get your videos back. And yeah, that's right. That's what happened to me on my trip. I had loaded all my video clips onto the iPad. It's the only device I brought with me. That all worked perfectly. It was all in Photos. And then before I went to get on the plane, I was just kind of pulling up a couple files and realized, oh no, almost all of the videos have been uploaded to the cloud, pulled off the iPad, and I've got nothing here to edit with. And with the airport's Wi-Fi, I didn't have enough bandwidth to download everything that I needed. So I couldn't edit my video. And I still haven't edited it, and I probably never will at this point because, you know, that was like a month ago. Who wants to look at that? So super annoying. The problem, the only solution that I know of is to simply turn off iCloud Photo Library, but that's a pretty crappy solution because you still want the whole syncing thing. Apple has not given us a way to say, no, keep this file local. Super annoying. This is something that Lightroom, obviously we're out of the video world here, but Lightroom Mobile does really well, is you can tell a album, a collection, to keep the high-res versions local so it doesn't offload them. So you can edit on the plane or whenever you don't have a connection. So super bummer, but that is something you really, really, really have to watch out for. Okay, last question is from Nick MacArthur, or MacArthur, oops, wrong one. Nick MacArthur says, is it normal for you to have fewer stabilization options when you're at a higher VFR, variable frame rate, such as Full HD 120 frames per second? Or could that have anything to do with the new firmware 2.0 update? So I looked at this quickly, briefly before, but we're going to find the answer together here. So the issue is, the question here is, let me put this back up and get this up on screen. I am, see here, let's bring this up like so. Let's bring up the menu. So I am, where is my video still at 60 or 10-bit? Where am I at? I'm at 4K 10-bit. Okay, well that's fine. 4K 10-bit 60 or 30. I want to look at my stabilization options. I've saved these into my menu settings, so I don't remember exactly where these are normally, but it doesn't matter. So you find your stabilization options. Operation menu, you've got the hand and then the off, and this is Like vertical only, I've never quite figured out where that works. I don't remember. I'd have to look that up. But anyways, this is your standard stabilization options. Then you have E-stabilization, IS lock, which is a new feature, and anamorphic video, which is a new feature as well. These, by the way, we'll get into these later, but this is IS lock, which mostly works on long lenses when you're shooting video, and then anamorphic video, if you're shooting with an anamorphic, depending on your adapter, you have options there. Okay, cool. Now, he's saying when you're in VFR, you have fewer options. So what I'm seeing is here is the main option or off, and then 3 others. So 4 different options in there. So now let's go ahead and go into a mode where I can enable VFR. And let's see here, let's go, there we go, VFR available, cool. So that's on, let's go and turn on variable frame rate, that is on, and let's take it all the way up to 60 for this particular setup. And now I go back into the menu, let's look at the stabilization settings, and okay, E-stabilization is currently off, that is not available. The standard one is still available, that's your hardware stabilization, and otherwise these both are on, or rather available as well. So the only one that we're losing is E-stabilization. So let's talk about what that actually is and whether it should matter and why it might be going away. So VFR, variable frame rate, you're shooting higher frame rate. One of the nice things about it, just regardless of what you can or can't do in the camera, one of the nice things about shooting VFR is that your movement, your subtle movements or your little bumps, because you're playing something back at half the speed or a quarter of the speed that it normally was, those little jostles or little handheldednesses will be smoothed out just because it's taking longer. So this becomes this, or even this, right? Super smooth and subtle. So those motions, little bit of motions, aren't really relevant. You're not going to see them. So that's one of the great things about shooting VFR, handheld. You're going to smooth out any handheld bumps you're getting anyway. Electronic stabilization, the E-stabilization video option. I have this off normally because I've found that if you combine the hardware stabilization, that's the mirror moving, along with the lens moving, if you have a lens that has stabilizers, you've got dual IS going. If you combine that with electronic stabilization, it's too much. It doesn't look natural anymore. So I found that turning off the E-video stabilization and just using the in-body gives me in-body and lens, the hardware stabilization, is a much better, smoother, happier result. So there's that. As far as why E-stabilization video is not available while you're recording 1080p or whatever frame rate at VFR, I don't know for sure, but my guess is going to be processing power. The processing power required to shoot VFR is much higher than not shooting VFR, and so that might be one of the things that just gets turned off because A, you don't really need it, right, because you're smoothing it out, you're slowing it down, you're going to get smooth anyway. You still have the hardware stabilization, so it's just that one level that's dropped off. Again, I'm assuming, don't know for sure, but I'm assuming it has to do with processing power, and frankly, I'm not going to miss it. So if, for Nick MacArthur, who asked the question, if you're seeing like no stabilization options, then something else is going on. But as you saw in there, I have everything available except for that E-stabilization. So I hope that helps. Okay, that was the last question. So now I'm finally going to go through the comments, everybody. I'm sorry I didn't kind of go back and forth like I normally do. I just know I had a lot of ones here that I wanted to get into. So let's go into the comment view and see what happens. Let's see here. We hit that already. Audio muffled due to beard. Yeah. Okay, F-Tonic says, can you revisit going back to doing Affinity shows? I kind of finished the Affinity stuff. That's all done. So if there's a specific Affinity photo feature that you want me to highlight that I missed, let me know. You can message on here. It would be better to put a comment on one of the videos, either on the photoops.expert website or here on YouTube. But I kind of wrapped that up. So. Oh, okay, so you're looking for tips and techniques according to the voice in my ear. The tips and techniques thing. I think I need to use it more. Here's the problem with doing all this training that I do. I will learn an app enough to do the training on it. I'll use it enough to know what I'm talking about, but then I may not incorporate it into my daily workflow because I have so many apps that I work with. And Affinity Photo, I've been using on desktop, I use it every day. And I've kind of shown throughout the course of that training, I was integrating tips in along with the training. So I'd say, this is a feature that I love, here's why I love it, here's how I use it in my personal workflow. But beyond that, I don't know that I have any other tips to offer at this point. So sorry, it's not the answer you're looking for, but if you watch the entire training course, you're going to pick up a lot of tips just because that's the way that I do the training. It's not like feature A does this, and when you drag this, it's a lot more than that. We do talk about technique in there quite a bit as well. So hopefully that helps. All right, APN TV, good morning to you too. Espen Goldsmo says, can you talk about the IS lock video? Hey, look at that. What a coincidence. I just did. Pardon me, Balak says, saw you had a chance to check out the Metabone Sigma combo. How was it? Review coming soon. Yes, Balak, I loved it. It was very cool. I need to look a lot more closely at it, and I will be, now that I've seen it and kind of more inspired. I wish it was cheaper. It's like $650 for the Metabones adapter, but I will have to do that for sure. Jake, you like the longer shows. Well, Jake, thank you very much. Dave Del Studio put version 2 on my firmware update on my GH5, and his Panasonic promised the GH5 like a 12 to 60 white balance losing IS problem is fixed. Excellent. This is an obscure problem that I could not reproduce, but Panasonic was able to on certain occasions where IS, image stabilization, was getting turned off after custom white balance. I'm super happy to hear that that's been fixed, Dave. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you for confirming that. Amateur Media Group, what do you think about the color in the GH5 version 2? Has anyone tried the new tethering? So color, I haven't seen any differences in color. If you're talking about the HLG, the hybrid lock gamma shooting, I haven't done anything with that yet, so I can't respond to that. But there shouldn't be any differences in color shifts between version 1 and version 2. I love the way the camera looks, the image looks. I mean, I've been shooting Lumix for a long time, so that look is home to me, it's comfortable to me, and I really like it. So other than that, I'm going to tell you, I think it looks awesome. Let's see here. John Morby won't ship to the UK. Must be talking about B&H and that microphone. That is a drag. Trevor, have you sunk your teeth into the gorgeous 400 megabit all-intra codecs yet? I have not yet. I have not. Achita says, oh, sorry, and the question earlier was about tethering. Has anybody tried it? Yes, I've tried it enough to do some brief demos on it. First time I tried it was in the airport. And then on Saturday, I was at Image One 2 days ago. I was at Image One in Riverside, California. I live streamed that whole event, and in there I do some tethering, and I talk a lot about tethering. It's actually the first thing that I talk about in there. So if you haven't seen that, we'll link to it up here. That event was a lot of fun, and that was a whole live. It was like an hour and a half or so of me just kind of presenting to an audience all the new features in the GH5 version 2. So you may want to check that out. It's not this kind of quality because we don't have the close-up camera and everything. We certainly don't have the switching over to this, but it's me and there's a big TV behind me. Hopefully it's enough you can see what's happening in there. All right. John, if PhotoJoseph was still going to Oaxaca, yes, then I could have collected from him while I was there. Well, you weren't, oh right, you're going to go to Oaxaca. You're being in Mexico as well. Anyway, yeah, unfortunately that trip had to get canceled. Sad. Chicha says, don't forget to calculate for T-Shop in real MOFT bokeh, Micro Four Thirds bokeh. So yeah, there's calculations. It's complicated enough going from Micro Four Thirds to what the full frame equivalent is, but then you add in the Metabones thing and it gets really messy. And I'm not sure which order to do the math in, but I'll figure all that out before I do a show on it. Marvin says, I have an old Canon lens which is a bit tight. What can I use as a lube to hopefully ease it up? Nothing you can do. Send it to Canon. That's it. Do not try and do any kind of lubrication to your lens yourself. Oh, good. Espen is saying, you have the Vedros lens get smoother over time. Well, that's excellent. So who was it that was asking about that? That was Osho Productions. So Osho Productions, Espen says that Vedros lens does loosen up, smoothen up over time. Thank you for telling me that. That's awesome. Marvin CPA says, my Panasonic 15 Leica is super smooth. Loving it a lot. Yes, it is super smooth. And I agree. I've had that lens for years now. I love it. Wado Media says, what do you think we can expect from a Vimeo plus live stream merge? Any thoughts for Mevo users? No, I don't have any thoughts on that other than I actually haven't even read the releases yet, but I guess Mevo will probably start live streaming to Vimeo. I think that I would guess, I didn't put any thought into this obviously because you just asked the question. I would guess that this is Mevo, not Mevo, this is Vimeo's way. Vimeo's way of getting into the live streaming game. Vimeo does not right now have a live stream solution. I can't live stream to Vimeo like I'm live streaming to YouTube right now. So I would guess that this is their way of saying, we don't want to develop this all on our own. Let's get together with a company that can do this and incorporate that together. So first we have to see live streaming to Vimeo. And who knows, maybe the only way to live stream to Vimeo to start will be from a Mevo. Vimeo Mevo. Say that 5 times fast. So that's what I would guess, but other than that, I don't really know. But it's interesting. These things are always interesting. Michael Simmons, are the Rokinon lenses as bad as some cinematographers say they are? I've never used them. I've heard some people say they really like them though, so I wouldn't be too quick to jump on them being bad. As always, you gotta understand too that when it comes to especially cinematographers, we're talking people who are used to working with really high-end gear, and a Rokinon is a lower priced third-party lens, and it may not have the quality that they're used to when they're used to shooting with $30,000 lenses. So, be realistic about your expectations. If you're coming from any normal batch of lenses, I'm sure they're fine. I haven't used them, but I know that some people do speak highly of them. But that's all I've got for you. Sorry. XT500C says, I'm considering purchasing a Panasonic Lumix G85. Superb camera. Is it still wise to invest in Micro Four Thirds camera equipment? Why wouldn't it be? I read that it might be on its way out. I don't know where you read that, my friend, but absolutely not. Micro Four Thirds is here to stay. The GH5, of course, being a prime example of that. G85 is a great camera. It's a very nice camera, so you will be happy with that investment for sure. Marvin, I was asking Brian to make adjustment to the picture-in-picture. He doesn't have control over that. That's all here. And it's not something I can do quickly and easily, so I just have to move out of the way when I do that sort of thing. Sorry. I have to be better about that. XT500C then asks, which Micro Four Thirds lenses would you recommend for recording top-down video content, printed text, and electronic circuits? Oh, interesting. On a workbench surface. That's a good question. Top-down. If it's out of height, if it's up high like this, and you don't have to worry about macro lengths, then it just depends on how close you want to get. You don't need shallow depth of field, because that's going to be working against you. So you're probably not going to want to shoot wide open on like a 2.8 or something. You will want to make sure that the lens won't drift. If you're using a zoom lens, that is not going to drift with the weight. Remember, these lenses are not designed to shoot this way. That's not a use case that the engineers really think about. Now, this lens here, there's the moving elements are all internal, and this is quite a stiff lens, so I would be confident saying I could hang this here for a decade and it would not drift. If you grab a lens like the 100 to 300 or 100 to 400 where the lens actually physically moves, that one will absolutely drift if you hang it upside down or hang it pointing down. Now the 100 to 400 does have a lens lock on it, so that will lock that into place. So that's something you could think about as well. If you don't have to use a zoom though, then don't, but obviously it could be convenient so that you can zoom in if you got a little thing and then you want to go wider, you can zoom out, so that may be something you want to consider. So I can't say which lens to use offhand, but if you're going to be hanging down like that, make sure that the zoom is either lockable or stiff enough that you don't feel like it's going to move, and preferably all internal like this 8 to 18. Those external ones, by far, in my experience, are much more likely to drift out hanging down just because of the weight on them. So that's something to consider as well. If you need to do top down closer, like say you're putting the camera like this to do things, then you're going to want one of the macros. So the 30 mil or the 45 mil macro would be what you should be looking at. And that's what I got for you. Hannibal says, what mic are you currently using to broadcast now? Sennheiser, what is this thing? This is total standard, go-to, everybody's got it. The EW100 G3, super common broadcast, like everything mic, everybody uses these. They're rock solid. They're awesome. They're not cheap. They're still $700 or $800. But as we saw earlier, B&H is having a fantastic sale for the next 10 hours or so. Let me pull that back up again because that was just insane. Oops, hit quit. Bravo. Which would be, I don't think the sound would be any different than this, but it is. Oh, did I close that? Darn it. I don't think the sound would be any different than this, but certainly convenience-wise, it's a really great solution. Let me pull this back up again. That was just too cool to not talk about one more time. Where's my history? Sennheiser, here we go. This guy here. So that is something I would very, very much be looking at. Now, what I don't know, this is interesting. So this is XLR. Great. Bravo. So that is XLR as far as I know. I wish I had a rear side of that. I don't know. Anybody who's got this, let me know. Can you hook this up to a non-XLR receiver? There's got to be. Or there's got to be a way to do that. That would be, let's see if it says in here. Body pack, lavalier, plug and play. It just says XLR receiver there. Oh, there's another picture. No, none of them show the back of it. This is a really good point. I don't actually know if you can adapt this to not be XLR. Here it says AVX mini jack. Works with the 100, 300, 500 Evolution series as well as the AVX series transmitter. So that's cool. So you can mix and match. I don't know if that means that you can use it on a regular camera without XLR. That's a really, really good question. Compact design directly with XLR on your camera. If anybody knows, please tell me in the comments right now, and I'll look up in a moment. Power's on off automatically. Interesting. Oh, wait, here we go. XLR to 1/8 inch DSLR adapter cable. Okay, perfect. There you go. Whew. So it does include that. That is something that you'll want to have for that. So, okay. So back to the question, which mic am I using now? Sennheiser. This is the upgrade to that. That deal, just in case you missed that part of it, it is currently October the 2nd at 10:30 a.m. and you have 10.5 hours left to take advantage of this deal. This is an unbelievable price. I don't know why the fire sale on these. If they're coming out with a brand new one that's got twice the range and twice the audio quality, I don't care. This is an amazing price for a fantastic microphone pack. So if you can get it, if you need a mic, if you need a pair of them, that's almost two for the price of one. Just rock. Awesome. Get it. Okay. Joshua says, is there no way to do any sort of bracketing when using 6K photo mode? Correct. Because 6K photo is essentially video, right? It is video, usually shot without audio depending on the mode you're in, and is shot 4:3 aspect ratio at a higher shutter speed than you would normally shoot video in, and shot in HEVC. That's it. Otherwise, it's video. So no, there's no bracketing for 6K photo. Anything else? Anything else? Anything else? SkateTube, is there any way to have Vlog on any Lumix non-GH4, GH5 like a GX8? No. Vlog is a pro feature that is for the pro cameras. Next, Marvin says, Marvin's telling someone how to ask me a question. Yes, very true. Put at PhotoJoseph. Hey, thank you, Albert Campbell, for the $2 contribution. I appreciate that. If anybody else is wondering how he did that, down here, you see the little dollar sign down there. If you click on that, then you too can help keep the show on the air, and I would appreciate it. Oh, he's got a question with it. Excellent. Okay, well, I'll get down to that in a moment. There we were. It was there, and Murat says, what kind of PC Mac requirement do I need for anything? Well, I'm working on 3- and 4-year-old Macs editing 4K 60p footage, no problem. I can also edit the 10-bit footage, no problem. So any Mac made within the last few years should be good. Getting up to the 400 megabit might be a little bit different. I haven't tried it. It might be a little chunky on my computer, but maybe not. I don't know. Kevin Wright, deinterlacing gets seriously hard because different frames still come from different times. It's not just overlaying odd and even lines. There's some tricky interpolation too. Okay. Well, just don't shoot deinterlaced. Oop. No, scrolled off again. Someone just said they would watch my holiday video. I'd like to watch it too, frankly. Albert had a question. Albert, again, thank you very much. Albert says, I have a GH5 and buy a manual focus wide angle lens, 7.5 millimeter. Ooh, super wide, nice. When I attach it, it says current focal length setting, 46 millimeter, change the setting, yes or no? How do I know what to set it to? Very good, okay. So what he's talking about is, how can I show this? I can just take the lens off. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take the lens off, so there's no lens on the camera. And let me get, so I'm going to turn the camera off. This is, you know what, I can't, if I do the output, it won't sync up in time for you to see it. So let me put this up here, close-up view, and come on, focus. It's hard to focus on a blank black screen. There it goes, okay, and close-up camera. Right, so I've got no lens on here. I turn it on, and it's going to pop up a message, current, which went away very quickly. Oh, it's because of the HDMI. Let me turn that off again. Current focal length setting, 25 millimeter. Do you want to change the setting? Yes or no? Okay, first of all, if you get this dialog, when you get this up, you don't have to hit no, you can just hit the shutter button halfway and it dismisses it. So here's what that message means and why it's there. It is on there because it does not sense a lens. It cannot, or even if it knows there's a lens there, it cannot determine the focal length of that lens. So it's asking you to set it manually, and it is going to be set to whatever it was last set to. Why does this matter? It matters for the image stabilization. How the sensor moves during image stabilization is dependent on the actual focal length, right? On a wider field of view, wider millimeter lens versus a telephoto lens, that is going to move differently. I don't honestly know how differently, but it's going to move differently. So the camera needs to know, if you're using image stabilization, what focal length lens you're using. So this comes up when you don't have a lens on there and you turn it on, or you put on a lens that doesn't have all the electronic contacts. So, if we look at the back of the lens on here, you of course have all these electronic contacts in there. All those contacts are communicating all kinds of fabulous information to the camera. If the lens you're using is a mechanical lens or an old lens that just doesn't have that data isn't there, so the camera doesn't know it's on there. So that's why it's asking. As far as what you should set it to, you set it to the focal length of the lens. Not your 35mm full frame equivalent, but what the lens actually says on it. So for example, the only lens that I have, I don't have it here with me, but the only lens that I have that's like this that I use all the time is my Zhongyi 25mm f.95 lens. So that's why when mine came up, it said 25 because that's what it's always set to. So whenever I power up the camera and that lens is on there, it asks me that question. Again, you don't have to navigate to know. You just tap the shutter halfway and it dismisses. But that's what that is for. So the question being, what do you set it to? You should set it to 7.5. Which, let's see, can you set it to 7.5? Oh, and by the way, let me find. Plug this back in. I want to look at this properly. Let me find where that setting is in the camera, because I actually don't remember. If you're working with a he says Albert's on a GH5, so that's good. But if you're with a non-GH series camera, actually, I think even the GH4 still had this, but the GH5, you don't have to tell the camera that it's okay to shoot without a lens. In pretty much every other Lumix camera, as far as I know, there's an option in the menu that says shoot without lens, yes or no. The reason that's there is because most people would never put on a lens that isn't going to communicate with the camera. So if the camera thinks there's no lens there, it's probably because there's no lens there. And so you don't want to have a lens off, push the button, and take a bunch of pictures. So shoot without lens is by default disabled. So if there's no lens, you can't take a picture. However, if you're going to put a mechanical lens on there, like I was talking about, then you have to enable the feature to shoot without a lens. Say yes, because otherwise the camera thinks there's no lens, even though there is, and it doesn't take a picture. On the GH5, that option doesn't exist. It's just always on. It's, they figure this is a pro camera, it's on. It's just on. So you can't even turn it off. But you can still change the focal length either when it boots up or inside of the camera settings. So let's do this, and that was weird. Let's try that again. Why did it go off to the side like that? I have no idea what just happened. Oh, well, I don't care. Okay, if I go to shutter, operation, lens, maybe lens profile resume. No, of course it's not going to be anywhere obvious. Let's see if I can just find it here quickly. I'm looking for a number on the right side. No, maybe it's not even under those. Maybe it's under. No. Okay, bravo. No, okay, it probably is under here somewhere. Not going to be exposure. Focus, release, shutter. Oh, maybe it's under stabilization settings. Oh, let's just go through these. Shutter half press out of a quick AF, pinpoint, focus loop. This is very exciting television. I'm very aware of this. Okay, honestly, easiest way to get to it, take the lens off the camera, turn it off and back on again, and then you can set it to whatever you want. That's what I'm going to do now because I'm tired of doing this already. So let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, face it towards you guys, and turn this off and back on. It comes up. I'm going to say change setting yes, and you can see here I have complete control down to the millimeters. So he said 7.5, so you go, oops, no, that would be 0. So you go here and you go 7.5. This is more granular than we've ever had before. You've never had this level of granularity. On most cameras, I think it was a preset selection of something like, I'm going to set this back so I don't screw myself up, of like 10 common choices, not even that many, 2 common choices or something. But there you go, you set that, and now it's set and ready to go. But now you can do it all the way down to like the 7.5. So that's what you want to set it to, and your image stabilization will be optimized for that lens. It's not to say that if you have it wrong, you can't use the camera. It'll still work, but you'll get better image stabilization performance if you set that correctly. Albert, thank you again for the contribution, and I hope that answers your question. SkateTube says, can Panasonic update destabilization on the GX8 to work on video? I don't understand the question. Can Panasonic, can they update destabilization? I don't mean by destabilization. I'm assuming you mean image stabilization to work on video too. Well, the GX8 stabilizer works on video because it's hardware. The GX8 was the first one that had dual IS. Dual IS works in video, doesn't it? I'm sure it must. If it's not working for you for some reason, and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. Copy and paste that question into the comments on this video after it's published so that the comment sticks, because this will go away and I will look into that. But you got to do that. If it's not working for you, don't forget to do it, and then I will look into it. D-Pro Visuals. Excuse me, we're getting a long show here. I got the GH5, but when I want to use it to take pictures, when I select a point to focus on to take pictures, it adjusts the exposure. I don't know how to fix that. Okay, sounds like you are in spot focus. What's it called? Spot focus. Spot metering. Spot metering. Sounds like you're in spot metering. One of the really cool things about these cameras is that the spot meter is tied to your spot focus. So you touch an area to focus and it also meters off of that if you're using spot metering. So let me find this. Let's go here. And actually, no, I think I'm probably gonna have to go this full view here. Let me bring up the metering. Where's my metering? Oh no, this will work here. I can do it like this. So metering is, and this is my custom quick menu. I'm using the custom one so I get more options in there. There's the metering. So you've got either multi, center weighted, or spot. You probably have it set to spot, and now you see, can you see the little blue crosshair top left? As I move the focus point around, so if I can move the focus or move it by hand, that crosshair changes with it. So as I point it at a darker area, well, I'm in full manual exposure now, so it's not doing it anyway, but as I reposition that focus point with the meter point, that is going to change the meter reading. If you take it out of that spot metering mode, if you take it out of that spot metering mode and just go to, say, multi or center weight or whatever, then that's not going to happen. It's not tied to the focus point. The spot metering is the only one that is tied to the focus point. So that's probably the issue. So just turn off spot metering, go to regular. Now, if you need spot metering, and you want spot metering and you want spot focusing, then you would have to recompose and shoot. And that's where the back button, this by default AF/AE lock, you would set that to auto exposure lock, point to what you want to meter off of, get a meter reading, press that, and then recompose and focus where you want to focus and shoot. That would be the way to handle that. Or just go manual exposure. That would work as well, of course. So there's that. Dave Cox is saying, have you spotted that the ISO can now be mapped to the rear control dial on the GH5 with version 2? Oh, yes, I have. I love this. I tweeted this on, I think it was on the airplane when I figured this out, and I got really excited and tweeted it because it was like, this is insane. So here, let me show you what he's talking about. Let me get out of, get back into normal shooting mode here. And display mode back up. Sorry, I just got to kind of reset things here so I can do this. And, oh, I mean VFR, that's why I'm not getting the settings I was looking for. Let me turn that off. VFR is off. And, okay, we're good to go. So here's what he's talking about. Actually, first let me show you where to set this. It's so weird the video keeps moving over. It is under operation and dial, no, not dial. Wait, where was it? Did I just pass it? Dial set? It is dial set. No, it's not dial set. Yes, it's dial set. In the very middle of that, control dial. Okay, so backing up, custom C menu, operation, dial set, page 3 of 6, and then the middle one down, control dial assignment. By default, it is set to this, to control your headphone volume. Totally useless. You can set it to control your under and over exposure, but if you're in manual, it'll control the aperture. Under over exposure everywhere. ISO. You can also use it to change the focus frame size, whatever. ISO. This is huge. This is enormous. I love this. So that's on. So now I have one-touch control. I'm not really see it here, but no, oops, sorry, wrong button. How am I going to show this best? Okay, you can see down at the bottom left, there's my aperture, and then my thumb dial is going to change my shutter speed or shutter angle, and then the control dial, you see over on the right now, is going to control my ISO. This is a beautiful thing because it means that I do not have to hit the ISO button and then do that. I've got one touch, control the ISO. So in full manual, aperture, get my thumbs in the right place. So aperture, shutter or angle, shutter speed or angle, and then ISO. Huge. Love it, love it, love it. Super happy to have that. Makes it a lot easier to shoot manual and adjust your exposure based off your ISO. Very handy indeed. So yes, saw that. Very happy about it. D Pro Visual says, can you please do a video on how to take pictures with the GH5? I could be a little bit more specific. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Yeah, specifics, please. XQ720, I got a G85. I can't download 4K videos with the iOS app. Why? I can wait. Is that right? I have to look into that. I think it depends on how you're set to record video. If you're set to DVC Pro HD, it's probably not going to be able to transfer. I thought you could transfer over 4K if you're shooting an MOV or MP4. I'd have to try it. I don't want to get the whole thing connected right now, but make sure you're not in DVC Pro HD. Do that first. XQ, do that first. If that is not the problem, if you switch it over to MOV and you still can't, as I told the earlier person, just take your question and drop it into the actual comments of this video once it's posted, and I will take a look into it. You might be right. Maybe you just can't do 4K. It's too big, but I thought you could, so I'd have to look into it. John Warby, yes, there's an adapter to give you 3mm. Ooh, that shows how far behind we are. That was the question about the microphone pack there. Okay, just a few more. Oh, great. Where were we? This turned into an AMA. Where was it? Okay, we got XCube says, I'm thinking of getting a portrait lens for the G85. Any recommendations? Yes, the 42.5mm f1.2. Amazing lens. Not cheap, but best you're going to get. How do Olympus lenses compare with Panasonic? I've never done side-by-side, so I can't tell you, but the Panasonic Leica lenses are kind of best in class, so I think you'd be good at that. Are the Olympus good at focusing? They're going to be better at focusing on Olympus bodies, most likely. Usually, Panasonic lenses with Panasonic bodies are going to give you the best performance, but that may not be a universal truth. It may depend lens to lens, and I can't tell you offhand. Okay. All right, guys, I'm gonna have to wrap this up. There's just too many other questions. Save your questions for another day. We will do an AMA next Monday. Put them into the comments if it's urgent, although I may not get to it faster, but you can put them in the comments. But I got to wrap this up. This has just gone on quite a long time already. Last reminder, if you're going to buy a microphone, if you're in the market for a microphone, don't miss out on this deal. This is a phenomenal deal, and we will link to this down below. We'll put it in the comments as a pinned comment because this is such an exciting thing. Ryan, don't forget that. And we will also put it in the main description. But you only got 10 hours left, and that is a hell of a deal. So if you're in the market for a wireless lav, get that. Just get that mic. Don't even think about it. Just do it. All right, folks, we're going to wrap it up out of here. What do I want to tell you about? Let's see, anything else I want to... No, it's 2 minutes. We're just going to go. We're going to kill it. Thanks, everyone, for coming in today to see the live and very lengthy show. We'll see you back here on Wednesday. Remember, no show on Tuesday. We're going to go straight to Wednesday. See you next time. Bye-bye.